There's a version of you that doesn't care anymore. Not in the weak way, not in the defeated way, but in the strongest way possible. That version of you is not emotional about people's opinions, not desperate for validation, not begging for attention, not overthinking every single move. That version of you wakes up and does what needs to be done, even when the mood is gone, even when motivation is dead, even when life feels heavy. And right now, you are not that version. You are still negotiating with your comfort, still waiting to feel ready, still hoping one day you will magically become disciplined. Let me be honest with you, that day is not coming. Nobody is going to wake you up and make you powerful. Nobody is going to build your body for you. Nobody is going to fix your mindset. Nobody is going to save your future. You either take control or you stay exactly where you are. And I need you to understand something clearly. Your life right now is not the result of what you want. It is the result of what you tolerate. You tolerate laziness. You tolerate distractions. You tolerate inconsistency. You tolerate broken promises to yourself. And every time you tolerate it, you train your brain to accept failure as normal. That is why you feel stuck. Not because you are incapable, but because you keep choosing comfort over growth. Now listen closely. The version of you that doesn't care anymore is not emotional about the process. That version doesn't sit and think, I don't feel like it today. That version says, I don't care how I feel, I'm doing it anyway, because discipline is not a feeling. It is a decision repeated so many times that your emotions stop being in control. Right now, your emotions are leading you. That is why your life feels unstable. Some days you are motivated. Some days you are lost. Some days you try. Most days you quit early. That is not a system. That is chaos. And chaos does not build anything meaningful. You don't need another motivational video. You don't need another promise to yourself. You don't need another fresh start on Monday. You need to become someone who stops negotiating with excuses. Because excuses are comfortable lies that protect you from facing your potential. And your potential is something you are avoiding. You already know what you should be doing. You already know what you are avoiding. You already know what you are wasting time on. So the real question is not knowledge. The real question is courage. Do you have the courage to act without waiting to feel ready? The version of you that doesn't care anymore is not waiting for perfect conditions. That version works in bad moods, works in confusion, works in silence, works when nobody is watching, works when there is no reward yet, because that version understands something simple. Pain of discipline is temporary. Pain of regret is permanent. And if you don't choose your pain, life will choose it for you later. You're going to feel discomfort either way. The only difference is whether it builds you or breaks you. Right now, you are choosing the kind that breaks you. Slowly, quietly, daily, and you are calling it normal. It is not normal. It is self-neglect with a routine. But here's the shift you need to understand. The moment you stop caring about comfort is the moment your life starts changing. Not caring doesn't mean being careless. It means being unstoppable by emotion. It means you stop asking, do I feel like it? And start asking, what needs to be done next? Because your future is not built by emotional decisions. It is built by repeated actions that feel small today, but become everything tomorrow. And if you are waiting for motivation, you will always stay behind. Motivation is not the source of action. It is a result of action. So you move first, then clarity comes later. Now, before we continue, understand this. If this is making you uncomfortable, good. That means something inside you is still awake, still aware, still capable of change. Because the real danger is not struggle. The real danger is acceptance of mediocrity. And many people are already there without realizing it. But not you, not if you continue this. Now let's make this real. Because the version of you that doesn't care anymore is not some fantasy personality. It is a set of behaviors that completely replace who you are right now. And the first thing it destroys is your emotional dependency on everything. That version of you does not wake up asking how it feels. It wakes up asking what is required. No debate, No delay, no inner negotiation. You either do it or you suffer later. That is the mindset shift. Right now, you are living like your feelings are commands. If you feel tired, you stop. If you feel bored, you scroll. If you feel overwhelmed, you escape. That is why your life feels weak, because your feelings are unreliable. They change every few minutes. And you are letting something unstable run your entire life. The version of you that doesn't care anymore cuts that control completely. It doesn't argue with discomfort. It doesn't negotiate with resistance. It doesn't sit down and wait for clarity. It moves first, and everything else follows. Now listen closely. That version of you is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not constantly talking about goals. It is quiet, extremely quiet, because it has no need to explain itself anymore. People don't need updates. They don't need justification. They don't need emotional speeches about what you are trying to do. It simply acts. And action removes confusion. Confusion only exists in people who think too much and do too little. Another thing that version of you eliminates completely is identity excuses. Right now, you might say things like, I am not disciplined. I get distracted easily. I am not consistent. I am not that type of person. And every time you say that, you are building a cage around yourself. The version of you that doesn't care anymore burns that cage down. It does not identify with weakness. It does not label itself as broken. It does not keep repeating old patterns as identity. It says, that was me before, not me anymore, and then it acts accordingly. Because identity without action is just imagination. But identity with action becomes reality. Now, let's get very practical. What does this version of you actually do daily? It does not rely on motivation to start anything. It starts because starting is non-negotiable. It does not wait for energy. It builds energy through movement. It does not spend hours planning the perfect routine. It follows a simple structure and repeats it without drama. Wake up, do the hard thing first, not the easy thing, because if you start your day with comfort, you will end your day in weakness. But if you start your day with difficulty, everything after that becomes easier. And here is something you need to understand deeply. Your life is not controlled by your big decisions. It is controlled by your small, repeated ones. The decision to delay, the decision to skip, the decision to scroll, the decision to quit early, the decision to do it later. These are not small. These are shaping your entire future. The version of you that doesn't care anymore kills later. Later is where dreams go to die. Later is where discipline disappears. Later is where potential gets wasted. That version replaces later with now, not in a motivational way, in a strict way. Now means now, not after comfort, not after mood improves, not after perfect timing. And I need you to understand something uncomfortable. Nobody is coming to rescue your discipline. Not your family, not your friends, not your future self. Your future self is not a magician. It is a reflection of what you do today. If today is weak, tomorrow will be weaker. If today is disciplined, tomorrow becomes powerful automatically. So you are not waiting for change. You are building it in real time. And the version of you that doesn't care anymore accepts this fully. No excuses, no story, no emotional justification, just execution. The real enemy is not laziness. Laziness is just the surface level symptom. It is what you blame because it is easy to name, but it is not the root. The real enemy is negotiation, that constant internal conversation that never ends, that voice that keeps asking for permission to quit early, to delay, to soften the effort, to make things easier first, just a little later, just a day off, just 5 minutes of distraction, just skip this one time, just restart tomorrow properly. And the dangerous part is not the thoughts themselves. The dangerous part is that you believe them because they never sound extreme. They always sound reasonable. They always feel justified in the moment. But that is exactly how discipline dies, not in one big failure, but in a series of small permissions. And every time you agree with that voice, you strengthen it. You train it to speak louder next time. until eventually it becomes your default thinking pattern. And now you are not even choosing anymore. You are reacting. The version of you that doesn't care anymore cuts that entire system at the root. No internal debate, no emotional courtroom, no negotiating with weakness. Because the moment you start negotiating, you have already lost the battle. You just haven't seen the results yet. Now listen carefully. Your mind is not your enemy, but it is also not your leader. Its job is to protect you from discomfort, from uncertainty, from effort, from risk. That is survival programming. But your goals are not survival-based. Your goals are growth-based, and growth always requires discomfort. So your brain will constantly try to pull you back to what feels familiar, even if familiar is destroying your future. That is why discipline feels unnatural in the beginning, because you are literally overriding old programming. Right now, your default response is delay, avoidance, escape, replacement. Replace effort with scrolling. Replace responsibility with distraction. Replace action with thinking. Replace pressure with comfort. And then you sit there wondering why nothing is changing. But change was never missing from your life. Execution was. That is the uncomfortable truth. The version of you that doesn't care anymore rewrites that entire system. It does not ask, do I feel like doing this? It asks, is this required or not? And if it is required, it is done immediately. No emotional vote, no waiting for motivation, no searching for perfect timing. Because perfect timing is a lie your mind creates to delay discomfort. Now understand something deeply. Your life is not shaped by your big decisions. It is shaped by your repeated micro decisions. The decision to delay for 5 minutes, then 10, then an hour. The decision to scroll instead of start. The decision to quit when it gets slightly hard. The decision to start but not finish. The decision to say, I will do it later. These are not small behaviors. They are identity builders. Because identity is not what you say about yourself. It is what you repeatedly do when no one is watching. And right now, those repeated actions are teaching your brain one thing. Avoid effort whenever possible. And that is why progress feels so slow. Even when you try, because try without consistency is just repeated resets, not growth. The version of you that doesn't care anymore eliminates resets. It stops living in cycles of motivation and collapse. Start strong, disappear, restart, repeat. That cycle is not progress. That is stagnation disguised as effort. Now let's get more honest. Most people do not lack time. They lack control over attention. Your attention is being stolen all day by notifications, by entertainment, by endless stimulation. And every time your attention is stolen, your discipline weakens a little more. Because discipline is not just action, it is control over focus. And if your focus is controlled by everything except you, then your life will be controlled by everything except you. That is why the version of you that doesn't care anymore protects attention like it is something valuable. Because it is. Attention is a foundation of skill, of learning, of growth, of income, of strength, of everything meaningful. Now let's go deeper. Every time you choose comfort over effort, you are not just resting. You are training weakness. And every time you choose effort over comfort, even when it feels unnecessary, even when nobody sees it, even when it feels small, you are training dominance over your own mind. This is why small actions matter more than big intentions. One skipped workout is not just a workout missed. It is a signal sent to your brain that quitting is acceptable. One delayed task is not just delay. It is reinforcement of avoidance. One broken promise to yourself is not small. It is identity damage. And over time, these small things stack into a life you do not recognize. Now on the other side, the version of you that doesn't care anymore is not emotional about these choices. It does not hype itself up. It does not rely on inspiration. It does not need motivation speeches. It operates on structure, on repetition, on refusal to negotiate. It moves before resistance forms. Because once resistance forms, you are already in danger of quitting. And here is something most people never understand. Discipline is not about pushing harder. It is about deciding faster. Less thinking, more execution. Less delay, more action. Now listen closely. You are not stuck because life is harder for you. You are stuck because your response to difficulty is inconsistent. Sometimes you fight. Sometimes you quit. Sometimes you try. Sometimes you escape. That inconsistency destroys momentum. And without momentum, everything feels heavy. Even small tasks feel big. Even simple goals feel impossible. But when consistency appears, even difficult things become automatic over time. Now imagine this shift. Same life, same responsibilities, same challenges, but a different response system. No delay, no negotiation, no emotional permission required, just execution. That is the version of you that doesn't care anymore. Not careless, not emotional, not reactive, but controlled, directed, and consistent under pressure. And the truth is, you do not need more ability. You need fewer excuses allowed to survive in your mind. Now imagine this clearly, not as motivation, but as reality. A version of you exists, where your life is no longer controlled by impulse, no random scrolling for hours, no broken routines, no starting things and abandoning them halfway, no constant restart cycles. That version of you is structured, even when life is not, especially when life is not, because discipline is not proven on easy days. It is proven on the days you feel like falling apart. Now, let's describe that version in real-life terms. That version wakes up and does not wait. There is no negotiation with bed, no bargaining with sleep, no 5 more minutes. It stands up because staying down is not an option anymore. And the first actions of the day are not random. They are intentional. They are simple. And they are repeated every single day. Because that is how identity is built. Repetition without emotional permission. Now listen carefully. In that version, there is no such thing as, "I don't feel like it." That sentence does not exist in the system anymore. It has been replaced with something far more direct. It must be done. And when your brain stops being allowed to debate, your life starts moving forward automatically. Most people think discipline is about intensity, but it is actually about removal. Removal of choice in the wrong moments. Removal of hesitation. Removal of emotional decision-making. Because every time you give yourself too many choices, you create space for weakness. Now let's talk about focus. In this version of you, focus is not something you try to find. It is something you protect. You do not casually switch between tasks. You do not mix work with distraction. You do not let entertainment sit next to responsibility. They are separated completely because mixing them destroys both. And right now, that is likely what is happening in your life. You try to work while distracted. You try to improve while consuming noise. You try to grow while feeding your attention to everything else. And then you wonder why nothing feels deep or meaningful. The version of you that doesn't care anymore eliminates that conflict. When it is time to work, only work exists. When it is time to rest, only rest exists. No blending, no confusion, no excuses hidden inside multitasking. Now let's talk about effort. In that version, effort is not emotional. It does not change based on mood. It does not depend on inspiration. It does not rise and fall with feelings. Effort becomes mechanical, like brushing your teeth, like walking, like breathing. Not because it is easy, but because it is non-negotiable. And this is the real shift. You stop asking your mind for permission, because your mind will always say no when things are hard. That is its default programming. So instead of asking, you command action through behavior. Now understand this deeply. Your current life is built on permission. You wait for permission from your mood, from your energy, from your motivation, from your circumstances. And if permission is not given, you do nothing. That is why progress feels rare. But the version of you that doesn't care anymore removes permission entirely. Action happens first. Feelings adjust later. not the other way around. Now, let's get even more real. That version of you is not comfortable in distraction anymore. Even small distractions feel heavy because your brain is no longer trained to tolerate waste. So you start noticing everything that is stealing your time, not emotionally, but clearly. And once you see it clearly, you cannot unsee it. And that is where change becomes permanent, because awareness destroys unconscious behavior. Now, let's talk about pressure. Right now, you probably feel pressure in bursts. You get overwhelmed, then you escape, then you come back, then you repeat. But in the disciplined version, pressure is constant, and calm is maintained inside it, not because life is easier, but because reaction has been removed. You are no longer reacting emotionally to pressure. You are executing through it. And that is where people transform, not when life gets easier, but when they stop reacting to difficulty. Now here is the uncomfortable truth. Everything you want is on the other side of consistency you currently avoid. Not talent, not luck, not timing. Consistency. And consistency is not built in motivation. It is built in moments where you refuse to quit quietly. No announcement, no drama, just refusal. Now imagine your days like this. You wake up, you do what is required. You continue even when it is boring. You continue even when it is slow. You continue even when nobody notices. And you stop needing emotional reward for action. That is where control is born, because you are no longer dependent on external validation or internal motivation. You become self-operating, and that is what most people never reach.